Max Verstappen is about to do something so dangerous, so unpredictable, that even Formula One drivers usually avoid it completely. This weekend, he enters the Nürburgring 24 hours. A race with 154 corners, more than 160 cars on track at the same time, and conditions so brutal that fog can shut down entire sections of the circuit in minutes. But here is the part nobody can ignore. He is doing it in a Mercedes. A Red Bull driver. In a Mercedes GT3. At the exact moment rumors around his Formula One future are exploding everywhere. And somehow, that is still not the craziest part. Because insiders at Nürburgring are already saying Verstappen could actually win this race on his debut weekend. The same race where one tiny mistake can destroy 24 hours of work instantly. No room for recovery. No easy overtakes. No guaranteed survival. This is the green hell. The most feared circuit in motorsport history. And what happened behind the scenes just to get Verstappen onto this grid changes the entire story. Mercedes executives reportedly helped move schedules around so he could legally qualify for the event. The race sold out completely for the first time ever. More than 200,000 fans are expected. And during the preparation races, Verstappen was already leading before disaster struck his car. Now the entire motorsport world is watching one question. Can the best Formula One driver alive survive the most dangerous endurance race on Earth? Or is the Nürburgring finally about to humble Max Verstappen? At first, this looked like a rumor people made up for social media. Max Verstappen, leaving the Formula One paddock for a full endurance project at the Nürburgring. Driving through the night. Sharing a car with 3 teammates. Racing for 24 straight hours on a circuit many drivers call more terrifying than Monaco in the rain. It sounded impossible. But then, on March 8th, everything changed. The project became official. And immediately, people inside motorsport realized this was not some publicity stunt. This was a real operation, built to compete seriously at the highest level of GT3 endurance racing. But here is where the story becomes almost absurd. To understand why Verstappen is even allowed to race this weekend, you need to understand how dangerous the Nürburgring really is. The full circuit is over 25 kilometers long. Forest everywhere. Blind corners everywhere. Elevation changes so aggressive it feels like a roller coaster at racing speed. Some sections are so narrow there is barely room for 2 cars side by side. And unlike Formula One, this race mixes completely different categories together. Imagine sprinting through a crowded highway at night while some cars move twice as fast as others. That is basically the Nürburgring 24 hours. Which is why the organizers have one critical rule. Nobody can debut directly in the main event. Every driver must first complete an official preparation race on the Nordschleife during the same season. No exceptions. Not even for a 4-time Formula One world champion. And this is where things started moving behind closed doors. According to reports connected to the project, Mercedes executives and Toto Wolff formally requested adjustments to the Nürburgring endurance calendar so Verstappen could fit the required preparation race between Formula One weekends. Think about how unusual that is. Mercedes helping create a path for the face of Red Bull Racing to drive one of their cars. That alone tells you how important Verstappen is right now, not just in Formula One, but in global motorsport itself. And then came the visual nobody expected. A Mercedes-AMG GT3, painted with Red Bull branding, carrying Verstappen's own team name on the car. It almost feels illegal to look at. Because this is not just a driver entering another category. This is Formula One politics colliding directly with endurance racing. And the deeper you go into this project, the stranger it gets. Because Verstappen did not join an existing team quietly. He created Verstappen Racing specifically for this mission. The technical operation runs with support from Windward Racing, one of the strongest Mercedes-AMG GT3 organizations. That means this entry is not symbolic. It is designed to win. But Verstappen also understood something very quickly. Natural talent alone will not survive the green hell. And that is why his teammates might secretly become one of the most important parts of this entire story. Danny Juncadella, Jules Gounon, Lucas Auer. 3 drivers with deep Nürburgring experience. Drivers who know where fog usually appears first. Drivers who understand how traffic behaves during the night. Drivers who already know the tiny mistakes that destroy races there. Because at the Nürburgring, experience is almost like a survival language. And Verstappen knew he needed people around him who already spoke it fluently. But even with all that preparation, what happened during the qualifying races shocked almost everybody. The qualifying races in April were supposed to be simple preparation. A few practice events. Some extra laps. More experience for Verstappen before the real 24-hour battle began. Instead, they revealed something that immediately changed expectations across the entire paddock. Max Verstappen was fast enough to fight at the front almost immediately. And honestly, that is not normal at the Nürburgring. Most drivers need years before they truly understand this place. Not weeks. Not a handful of races. Years. Because the Nordschleife is not a circuit you memorize like a Formula 1 track. It feels more like surviving a moving puzzle at 200 kilometers per hour. One corner tightens unexpectedly. Another hides the apex completely. Then suddenly the surface changes, the grip disappears, and traffic arrives at the worst possible moment. The track punishes confidence faster than almost anywhere else in motorsport. And Verstappen still adapted frighteningly quickly. But the weekend did not start cleanly. During the first qualifying race, the number 3 Mercedes AMG received a grid penalty after an incident involving Lucas Auer during qualifying. The car originally secured 6th position, then dropped down to 9th before the race even began. Not catastrophic, but frustrating. Especially because qualifying position at the Nürburgring matters far more than many people realize. Early traffic there can become chaos instantly. Faster GT3 cars begin slicing through slower categories almost immediately, and one badly timed overtake can end an entire race before sunset even arrives. That is why teams fight desperately for clean air at the front. But then came the second qualifying race. And this is where the conversation around Verstappen changed completely. Because suddenly, people were not talking about him as a celebrity Formula 1 driver trying endurance racing. They were talking about him as a genuine contender. Verstappen climbed through the field aggressively. Calmly, efficiently, and before long, he was leading the race. Against experienced Nürburgring specialists. Against factory GT3 drivers who have spent years mastering traffic management around the Nordschleife. That caught everybody's attention. But here is the detail that matters most. He did not look uncomfortable doing it. That sounds small, but it changes everything. Because many elite Formula 1 drivers arrive in endurance racing carrying a completely different driving instinct. In Formula 1, everything is precise, controlled, predictable. The traffic is organized. The visibility is clear. The strategy is tightly managed. The Nürburgring destroys that comfort immediately. Imagine trying to solve a chess match while sprinting through a thunderstorm in the dark. That is endurance racing at the Nordschleife. And Verstappen looked unusually natural inside the chaos. Then disaster arrived. A broken front splitter damaged the car badly enough to force a long repair stop. By the time the team returned to the track, they had dropped far behind the leaders with no realistic chance to recover. On paper, the final result looked terrible. But inside the paddock, the result itself almost did not matter anymore. Because everybody saw the important part already. The pace was real. And suddenly, this project stopped feeling like a fascinating experiment. It started feeling dangerous for the rest of the field. But there is another reason why people inside endurance racing are taking Verstappen seriously now. This actually was not his first Nürburgring success. The year before, in 2025, Verstappen already won an official Nordschleife race driving a Ferrari 296 GT3 alongside Chris Lullum. Different manufacturer. Different teammates. Same terrifying circuit. That victory quietly proved something important about Verstappen. His learning curve here is unusually aggressive. Most drivers slowly adapt to the green hell. Verstappen attacked it almost immediately. And now the entire paddock enters this weekend asking the same question. If he was already leading during the preparation races, what happens when everything finally comes together during the real 24-hour event? By the time the Nürburgring reaches Saturday afternoon, the entire atmosphere changes. Practice is over. Excuses disappear. And suddenly, more than 160 cars begin preparing for one of the hardest starts in all of motorsport. That is when the real pressure finally hits. Because this race is not just long. It is mentally exhausting in a way Formula 1 almost never becomes. In Formula 1, drivers usually know exactly who they are fighting. The grid is controlled. The speed difference between cars is manageable. And if something goes wrong, there are still opportunities to recover. The Nürburgring works differently. One mistake in traffic can erase 12 perfect hours instantly. And traffic here is constant. GT3 cars like Verstappen's Mercedes AMG share the circuit with dramatically slower categories at the same time. Some cars have nearly 3 times less power. Others brake far earlier. Some drivers are professionals. Others are amateur racers living their dream for one weekend. Now imagine approaching a blind corner at high speed in the middle of the night, and suddenly finding slower traffic exactly where you least expected it. That is the real Nürburgring challenge. Not pure speed. Decision-making. And this is where endurance racing becomes brutally psychological. Because over 24 hours, the race slowly starts attacking the drivers mentally. Fatigue builds. Visibility disappears. Weather changes constantly. Tiny frustrations grow into dangerous mistakes. And the green hell waits for every single one of them. The night section is especially feared. According to the source material, between late Saturday evening and early Sunday morning, the Nordschleife becomes one of the most unpredictable environments in world motorsport. Fog can suddenly close sections of the circuit within minutes, forcing safety interventions far more often than in Formula One. And this is where Verstappen's situation becomes fascinating. Because Formula One has trained him to operate under pressure better than almost anyone alive. But endurance racing asks a completely different question. Can you stay emotionally controlled for an entire day? Not one qualifying lap. Not a 2-hour Grand Prix. An entire day. Imagine trying to remain perfectly focused from sunrise to sunrise while danger never truly disappears. That is why so many drivers describe endurance racing almost like survival. And there is another hidden factor most people do not realize. The strategy inside these races becomes unbelievably complex. Every team must constantly balance fuel usage, tire wear, driver rotation, weather forecasts, and repair risks. One wrong timing decision during a pit stop can destroy the entire race. And for Verstappen racing, the driver rotation itself becomes one of the biggest weapons. Because Verstappen does not need to carry the entire operation alone. That changes everything. Lucas Auer knows the team deeply. Jules Gounon is one of the strongest endurance specialists in GT3 racing. Danny Juncadella brings years of Mercedes AMG experience around circuits exactly like this one. Together, they form something unusually balanced. Raw speed mixed with Nürburgring survival knowledge. And quietly, people inside endurance racing are beginning to admit something very uncomfortable for the rest of the grid. This lineup might actually be complete enough to win immediately. But there is still one giant problem nobody can solve. The Nürburgring itself does not follow logic. The fastest car often loses. The smartest strategy can disappear because of weather. A random puncture can ruin everything. Even the strongest teams sometimes survive purely through luck. And that uncertainty is exactly why this weekend feels different from almost every Formula One race people are used to watching. Because for once, Verstappen enters an event where his talent alone cannot guarantee control. The green hell decides that. And what happens next could seriously change how the motorsport world sees him forever.